The summer heat in Monaco was unusually fierce that year, carrying with it the scent of scandal and the weight of secrets. Lionel Messi had come for privacy, away from the cameras and the noise of stadiums. He rented a villa tucked into the cliffs above the coast, hoping to disappear into the Mediterranean breeze. But even legends can't hide from fate. It started with a chance meeting at a gallery, one of those curated spaces reserved for the elite. Canvas, wine, whispered judgment. She stood alone in front of a charcoal sketch of a dying bull, her fingers clasped behind her back, her profile sharp and elegant. Georgina Rodriguez, not just beautiful, but magnetic, as if gravity itself paused when she moved. Messi had heard her name more times than he'd admit. She was known not just as the partner of Cristiano Ronaldo, but as an icon in her own right. Model, entrepreneur, a presence impossible to ignore. Their eyes met for a second too long. She didn't flinch, he didn't blink, and just like that, the world beneath them shifted. They spoke only briefly, but in those few minutes, something dangerous was born. A curiosity not of strangers, but of two people who knew too well what it meant to be watched, desired, envied. They left separately. Nothing happened. Not yet. But that night, Messi couldn't sleep. His wife, Antonella, was back in Barcelona with the children. He stared at the ceiling fan spinning shadows on the walls and replayed Georgina's voice in his mind. Low, clear, unbothered. It wasn't infatuation. It was a collision of lives too tightly wound by responsibility, and something inside him cracked. Days passed. They met again. Coincidence, they told themselves. A cafe, then a dinner with mutual acquaintances. Always public, always polite, but each time the air grew thicker. Every glance, a loaded question. Every silence, a scream. One night, after a gala in Monte Carlo, the inevitable happened. They escaped onto the terrace, while others laughed behind crystal glasses inside. The stars above seemed complicit. "You know this is insane," Messi said, not looking at her. "I know," she replied, her voice barely audible. "But you're still here. So are you." Their kiss was not gentle. It was desperate, defiant. In that moment, they were not who the world thought they were. Not Messi, the humble god of football. Not Georgina, the partner of another legend. They were just two people tired of being symbols. What followed was a series of stolen moments. Hotel rooms under aliases, secret flights, encrypted messages. They were careful, paranoid, but passion has a way of making even the most disciplined careless. A journalist caught wind of something. Not much. A sighting at a private airstrip. A photograph of Messi boarding a jet that didn't belong to him. Nothing publishable. Yet. Then came Madrid, a night they should have canceled, a night they thought they could control. They were seen. The photos weren't blurry. Messi's hand on her waist, her fingers brushing his jaw. The angle left no room for interpretation. By morning, it was everywhere. Antonella's silence was louder than any accusation. She didn't scream. She didn't beg. She looked at him with eyes that knew this world too well. Betrayal wasn't new, but not from him. Not from Leo. Ronaldo was in Riyadh when he saw the news. His phone exploded with calls, none of which he answered. He stared at the screen for an hour, his jaw clenched, his mind racing not with heartbreak, but with calculation. This wasn't just personal, it was war. Georgina went dark, her Instagram wiped. No appearances, no comments. The silence became its own storm. Rumors spiraled. Was she pregnant? Was Messi leaving his family? Was Ronaldo planning revenge? Messi stayed in Monaco, surrounded by bodyguards and isolation. For the first time in his life, he wasn't cheered. He was judged. Headlines turned cruel. Fans who once worshipped him now questioned his character. The pitch, once his refuge, became a battlefield. He didn't speak to Georgina for weeks. Not because he didn't want to, because he didn't know what to say. What do you say when you've destroyed two worlds just to feel alive? But silence only fueled the fire. A video leaked, CCTV footage from a private villa, showing them embracing. It was old, but it didn't matter. The damage was fresh. The wound stayed open. Antonella filed for separation. Not divorce. Not yet. Messi begged to explain. She listened. He wept. She didn't. "I don't hate you," she said, "but I don't recognize you." The words haunted him more than any headline. Meanwhile, Georgina faced her own reckoning. Ronaldo returned, not with anger, but with something colder. He simply removed her from his life. Unfollowed, unspoken, unforgiven. Their home emptied, her status revoked. Brands dropped her. Calls went unanswered. What began as passion became poison. And still, they found each other. Hidden in Florence, they met again. She wore black, no makeup. He looked tired, thinner. "I lost everything," she said. "So did I. Was it worth it?" He didn't answer. They held each other like castaways, not lovers. The world no longer clapped for them. The stadiums were silent, their legacy fractured. But in that silence, a question lingered. Was this destruction the price of truth? They were not heroes, not villains, just human. Florence held them like a secret, its old stone walls muting the noise of their ruined reputations. The villa where they stayed had once belonged to a forgotten Italian countess, draped in ivy and silence. There were no servants, no photographers, no messages from agents, only the weight of what they had done and the fragile echo of what they had felt. Georgina slept with the windows open, as if the breeze could carry away the past. Messi watched her often, not out of lust, but out of fear. He feared this was all that was left, a love born in fire, now smoldering in ashes. He trained alone in the mornings, running through the olive groves like a ghost of his former self. No jerseys, no fans, just breath and sweat and regret. And yet, there was clarity in the solitude. For the first time in years, he wasn't being anyone for anyone else. But the world outside didn't sleep. Antonella had left Barcelona with the children, not to punish him, but to protect them. She gave no interviews, she wore no visible pain, but she moved through airports like a shadow. And still, the cameras found her. Headlines called her the saint, the betrayed queen, the woman who turned her back on a god. Ronaldo, meanwhile, turned scandal into strategy. He appeared at charity events with his children, smiling like nothing had happened. But those close to him said he'd never been colder. The man who had built a legacy on competition now burned with a different fire. And he had resources, lawyers, editors, influencers. Whispers spread that he'd begun funding a documentary about betrayal, loyalty, and image. No names mentioned, of course, but everyone would know. Messi received a call from his agent. "Leo, we can fix this, but you have to leave her." He didn't respond. Another call came, from his mother. That one broke him. "You are still my son," she said softly, "but the boy I raised knew right from wrong." He hung up. Georgina tried to be strong, but she was breaking too. The modeling contracts were gone. Invitations dried up. She couldn't even go out for coffee without stares, whispers. To the world, she wasn't a woman in love. She was a traitor, a seductress, the cause of a football civil war. They fought sometimes, silly things, a forgotten call, a long silence. But the real war wasn't between them. It was inside them, between love and guilt, between desire and consequence. One night, a car approached the villa. Messi's body tensed. No one knew they were here. A man stepped out, not a paparazzo, not a fan. It was a lawyer, papers in hand. "You are being served," he said quietly. It was a custody motion from Antonella, not to take the children, but to ensure they never appeared in the media with him again. Not until the court decided if he was a fit influence. That night, Messi cried alone on the rooftop. Georgina found him hours later, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the stars. "I thought I was doing this for me," he said. "But I hurt everyone." She sat beside him. "Me too. Do you ever wish we'd never met?" She didn't answer right away. "I wish we had met differently." The days bled into one another. Then came the real blow. FIFA issued a formal statement. Messi's role as global ambassador was under review, not because of his skills, but because of a concern over public image responsibilities. He read the email 3 times. He felt sick. It wasn't just about football anymore. It was legacy, permanence. His name had been carved into history. And now, history wanted to erase him. Georgina tried to hold him, but he pulled away. "This is my fault," he whispered. "I broke my own world." She didn't argue. They had passed the point of comforting lies. But something changed that week. Maybe it was rock bottom. Maybe it was clarity. They began to rebuild, not their image, but themselves. They cooked, they read, they talked, not about football, not about Ronaldo, not about Antonella, but about childhoods, fears, dreams. They rediscovered who they were when no one was watching. One morning, Messi received a letter, handwritten, from Antonella. It read, "I don't know if I can ever love you the same way again, but I hope you learn to love yourself again. Not as Messi, as Leo." He folded the letter and wept. Another message came, this time from Ronaldo. Just 4 words. "Take care of her." No anger, no threat, just the ghost of something that once resembled brotherhood. Messi turned to Georgina that night and said the words neither of them expected. "I'm going back. To your family? To my truth. But what about us?" He didn't answer right away. "I will always carry you," he said finally. "But some roads don't lead to forever." She nodded, tears silent. They kissed one last time, not with passion, but with peace. Messi returned to Barcelona, not to reclaim his throne, but to rebuild his soul. Antonella agreed to counseling. The kids welcomed him with cautious joy. Georgina vanished from the public eye, moved to Lisbon, opened a small dance school for girls who'd been bullied. The world eventually moved on. New scandals, new stars, but those who knew remembered. Not the affair, but the cost of it. And somewhere, under a different sky, 2 hearts still beat for what they had. Not in regret, not in shame, but in memory. Seasons changed, and the headlines faded. Time, relentless and cruel, did what it always does. It dulled the edge of scandal, but not in their hearts. There, the wounds remained. In Barcelona, Messi no longer chased trophies. He still trained, still played, but differently. Not for glory, not for records. He played for silence, for healing, for the sound of the ball brushing the net and the roar of his children's laughter in the stands. Antonella watched him from a distance at first. A man trying to remember himself. It wasn't easy. Trust once shattered, like glass, doesn't return whole. It cuts, even when it glistens. But there was love still, wounded, bruised, limping, but alive. In their home, nothing was quite the same. There were moments of tension, sudden silence, tears that appeared without warning. But there were also small miracles. A drawing from their youngest son, a photo rediscovered in a drawer, Leo, Antonella, and the kids on a beach in Rosario, smiling, whole. One night, Antonella lit a candle on the balcony and said, without turning to him, "If we try again, it's not for the world, it's not for the children, it's for us, only us." He nodded, a single tear falling. In Lisbon, Georgina found something she hadn't expected, peace. Away from the flashes and filters, she learned how to live without performance. The dance school grew slowly, funded quietly by her own hands, not Ronaldo's shadow. Young girls adored her, not because of who she had dated, but because of how she listened, how she cared. She didn't speak of Messi, not once, not even when asked, but in her drawer, hidden beneath a folded scarf, was a letter, unsent. It read, "We broke the world to find each other." And maybe that was the most honest thing we've ever done. But honesty doesn't guarantee happiness. It just guarantees truth. And the truth is, I'll never regret you, even if I never see you again. In Riyadh, Ronaldo reinvented himself again. The machine never stops. He won games, scored goals, smiled for cameras. But in the quiet of his gym, he stared at the wall where a photo once hung. Him and Georgina, holding their daughter. He never put it back. He never needed to, because memory has no shelf. It stays, whether honored or ignored. A year passed, then another. The 2026 World Cup arrived. Messi didn't play. He declined the call-up, citing personal reasons. But he watched, in silence, from home, surrounded by his family. The final was Argentina versus Portugal. The world couldn't look away. Ronaldo, still fierce, still radiant, scored first. The crowd erupted. Then came the second half. A new star from Argentina, a young striker who had grown up idolizing Messi, curled a shot into the top corner. The game was tied. Then, in stoppage time, the same boy broke through Portugal's defense, chipped the keeper, and fell to his knees. Argentina won. Ronaldo bowed his head, not in defeat, but in grace. Back in Barcelona, Messi didn't cry. He smiled. He turned to his son and said, "He plays with his heart." "You taught him that?" the boy replied. Not far away in Lisbon, Georgina turned off the television. Her students had danced that morning. She had laughed. She had lived. She stepped outside. The night air was cool. She looked at the sky, then whispered, "Congratulations, Leo." He would never hear it, but somewhere he felt it. Years later, a journalist would ask Messi what his greatest lesson had been. Not about football, but about life. He answered slowly, choosing each word like a pass in a tight match. Sometimes the heart breaks the rules to survive, but the cost of freedom is everything you thought was safe. The interview ended. He walked home. Antonella was waiting. The lights were low, the children asleep. He kissed her hand, not out of duty, but love, real, earned, flawed. And somewhere, in another country, a woman who once shared a forbidden chapter of his life looked out a window, teaching others how to move, not for the world, but for themselves. They never spoke again, but they never truly let go. Because some stories don't end. They echo forever.